On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, it'd be sweet if both Scottie Barnes and Immanuel Quickley took big leaps this year, but what if it can only be one? We're playing Would You Rather. Thanks for hanging. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Wednesday, September the 25th. We are 5 days away from Media Day. It's very thrilling. And I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now going on 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the Bad website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. And of course, you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. It's free to join as always. And it's a lovely listener community we got building around the show. We got folks in there from Bolivia. We got folks in there from Australia and Great Britain. It's a wonderful amalgamation of all Raptors fans around the world, and also like me doing dumb takes and stuff. So come hang out. It's great. We'd love to see you in the Discord. Of course, you can find the show for free wherever you get your podcasts, on the audio or video side of things. We're on YouTube and all the audio apps. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. All that good stuff. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Down the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And we get rolling here, playing one of my favorite little Locked On Raptors parlor games. It's Would You Rather. We've got 3 Would You Rather scenarios on the docket today regarding the Toronto Raptors' best players, regarding general fandom of 2 moribund franchises, and some offense, defense stuff as well. And doing it all with us here today is the lovely Katie Heindl from Basketball Feelings. Katie, the first one I have teed up here is one regarding the Toronto Raptors' 2 most important players, arguably coming into the season, Scottie Barnes and Immanuel Quickley. My question to you, Katie, is would you rather Scottie Barnes makes an all-NBA team this season, but Immanuel Quickley does not improve upon last year's output, or Scottie Barnes kind of stagnates, doesn't improve upon last year, is just an all-star again, but Immanuel Quickley also becomes an all-star? Basically, this is a question of would you rather one clear-cut star with some question marks around him, or a couple of all-star guys who can then go and potentially become more. This, by the way, does not preclude these guys from taking further leaps down the road. This question does not suppose that this is the last season in which they can make developmental leaps. Talking just about this season, would you rather a big Scottie jump to All-NBA and nothing for Quickley, or a big jump for Quickley to the All-Star team where Scottie Barnes kind of does what he did last year?
Yeah, I'm remembering how much I hate this game. I hate the extreme parameters of this game.
This means I've successfully concocted today's questions, and I'm very excited.
Yeah. I think the latter for me. This is just my balanced nature, but I prefer it for both athletes, that someone doesn't proverbially get left behind. I would also prefer it for the team. I think in terms of growth and understanding the trajectory and the shape of the team for looking forward, it's better to have 2 of your stars and primary pieces of the team looking good and looking like they're improving versus, a real misbalance of someone getting leaps ahead and someone getting left behind.
Sure. Choking
on their proverbial dust. So I like the balance better. And I think the kind of the trickle down effect to the rest of the team, when you have 2 of your athletes that are, again, as you put it, the focus of the team, doing well, that's going to have a better trickle down effect, considering this is such a young team. And the echoes of that are much more fortuitous for the rest of the team in terms of on-court learning, off-court learning, just development, understanding what does a team look like? How are you going to I'm just rambling now, but that's what I think.
Don't worry. I do that every single day on this podcast, Katie.
I know.
It's part of the deal.
I'm rambling just about an imaginary scenario. My hope would be everyone improves this season. That is my hope every
That's
season.
not within the parameters
I
that we laid out before, Katie.
I know.
Get that garbage balance out of here, Thanos. No.
Not in an evil way.
An evil way for the rest of the NBA.
Someone doesn't need to
Toronto
turn to
Raptors are
dust
perfectly balanced.
for my scenario to be true.
No one's getting snapped. No. Wow. Haven't thought about those movies in a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think either of us are big MCU freaks, but we've really made the case today.
Yeah. I think I am slightly on your side with this one too, Katie. While I think it would be pretty awesome and pretty transformative for the franchise if Scottie Barnes becomes like a no doubt top 15 player and is an all NBA guy this year, I think just for the general direction of the franchise, it's a lot easier to kind of map out the next few years if Immanuel Quickley joins Scottie Barnes at the all-star status, right? It's going to be tough for Quickley to do, right? There's a lot he's got to do. There's a lot of good guards in the Eastern Conference. I think if he makes a jump so substantial that he's an all-star, that means some pretty good things are cooking with Immanuel Quickley. And like I said, I had this very important parameter when I laid out the question. It does not preclude future development. And if Scottie Barnes does something similar to what he did last year while Quickley takes a big jump, I think that can sort of inform further leaps down the road. If Scottie Barnes is playing with a guy of that level, that feels like it's going to help him level up further down the line as well. I guess this is like a sort of philosophical thing, right? Of like, what's more important to have is like a bunch of good players or one, no doubt this is the franchise pillar and everything kind of revolves around him. It'd be nice if both of these things happened. I don't think it's terribly likely that both guys are going to make the leaps we've kind of laid out here, but that's for a what's more likely episode and not a would you rather episode. Of course, there's a very important distinction in these parlor
very
games.
different.
Yeah,
very different.
Definitely not a basic riff of the exact same concept or idea. Come back tomorrow for what's more likely with Jamar Hines. But yeah, I think the Scottie jump, it can come in time if it doesn't come this year. And I think it's probably smart, Katie, to temper expectations for Scottie Barnes a little bit going into this year. Yes, there's a lot riding on him. Yes, he's about to hit that big contract in a year. But I think what is your sort of read on, the expectation level for him after such a substantial across the board leap last season? It feels unrealistic to look for something similar. No, like what would you like to see from him in terms of leap that is more realistic?
I mean, the expectation is always going to be extremely sky high for a guy like him, right? Sure. And my preaching of kind of temperance and patience is not it's not applicable to somebody like Scottie Barnes, both from, I think, a franchise perspective and a fan base perspective. It is possible he takes that big of a leap again this season. You know what I mean? Like, I've read some things that, place the comps that he was earlier compared to like coming into the league as now he's not yet at the point in his career because he is not good enough yet that those comps no longer apply, which is obviously very silly, made up logic. And then that he has to take several gigantic leaps to even get there. I'm all for comps in terms of play style, but in terms of trajectory, like we could just stop that.
Yeah.
But
everyone is their own developmental being. Yes.
I think the stage is set where he could. They've cleared the way. They've also nodded at the fact that, his next contract is going to be an even bigger and even longer one. They want to secure him. So given all of that, he certainly has the runway to make a leap. Proficiency wise, like we've talked about it on another episode, I think he'll land probably somewhere in the middle. He's not going to come out necessarily. You know what? I'll take that back. He may come out like blistering with like one new kind of skill set, but he will inevitably, there'll be a dip at some point in the season, right? There'll be a recalibration. And I think that's the part that I hope people are ready for, because that doesn't necessarily signal regression. It just signals a pause.
And like the league adapting to the new reality for a guy who you have to game plan for every single night, right? And that's
that's a great point.
That's the constant push and pull of being a star is, hey, I'm really good. Oh, the league figured that out. Oh, damn. Now I got to figure out how to be really good in a different way. And the best guys are the ones who can. And I think Scottie's like
not
a
playing in a
cerebral
vacuum.
enough player to be
Mhm.
able to do that. And he's got enough in the toolkit. Yeah. Look, both guys taking a jump. I'm cool with both of those things. So let's be clear. Just because I laid out these extreme parameters does not mean I'm not rooting for both things. We're going to come back on the other side. Katie, speaking of rooting, the Clippers, the Raptors, both franchises kind of intertwined, last 5 years storylines because of the Kawhi Leonard thing. Some pretty grim news about Kawhi Leonard and the knee stuff that he dealt with in the summer. And we're going to get into just a look back at the last 5 years of Raptors and Clippers fandom as we continue our Would You Rather episode coming up in just one sec. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time, the single best place to buy tickets for all of the events that you might want to go to, whether it's a sporting event, concerts, comedy, theater. It's all there for you to go and peruse, and Game Time makes it easy to get the tickets you want at the price you want to be paying. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events easier than ever. Game Time filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Look, baseball, it's winding down. The Blue Jays, not very good, playing some pretty bad baseball lately. But if you just want to go hang out at the ballpark and watch a game, as me and my pal Katie have done this season, you can go and buy your tickets at Game Time, and you're probably going to get them for really, really cheap. You also get those seat views. If you've not been to the new dome this year, and you want to know what it looks like from those seats down on the baselines with the new direction of the seats and all of that, you can go and peruse those over on Game Time as well with their panoramic views from your seat before you buy. They have the lowest price guarantee as well. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same row and section for less somewhere else. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Term supply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Back at it here with Katie Heindl, and it's podcast time again as we dig back into the Would You Rather scenarios I have so studiously laid out here today. This one comes from a bit of upsetting news from yesterday. Kawhi Leonard had some knee surgery in the summer. We know he was pulled out of the Olympic team, and it's kind of a question as to will he be there for the start of the season, start of a training camp? You know, obviously, we all hope for the best for Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard playing basketball is good for everybody. But it got me thinking a little bit, Katie, with the Clippers situation. Paul George now in Philly, the last 5 years, not exactly as it was planned out for the Clippers. That said, they had some success. And I don't want to say that they're done now or anything like that. They certainly could still get a healthy Kawhi playoff run at some point here in the next few years, and things could be very fun and fruitful. But over the last 5 years, I think it's been an interesting thing to track the Raptors and the Clippers, even dating back to that first year after Kawhi left. The Raptors having that incredible title defense season, the Clippers disappointing in the second round, losing to the Nuggets, blowing the 3-1 lead. I think it's a pretty interesting would you rather to look back since July the 1st, 2019. So post Raptors winning the championship, just before the earthquake move of Kawhi and PG going to the Clippers, literally after an earthquake in Vegas. You were there for that, right?
I was.
Crazy. And so would you rather, Katie, have been a Raptors fan from 2019 through 2024 or a Clippers fan from 2019 through 2024? Tail of the tape for you. Raptors, 194 and 196 record overall, 2 winning seasons, 2 losing seasons, 1 500 season, 1 playoff series win, and that titanic second round battle against the Celtics back in the bubble. The Clippers, 233 and 157, 5 plus 500 seasons, 4 playoff appearances. They made a conference finals. They've won a couple series in that time, 3 series overall. I believe they lost in the second round too. Back in the bubble season. So more success on the court for the Clippers. They've always had that sort of hope of, we have the ingredients here for healthy to go win the championship, which is something I think a lot of fans can get a lot of juice out of over the course of a season. But of course, it's not ended the way the Clippers have wanted. The Raptors, we know the story. Tampa, the tank season last year, lots of nastiness, losing franchise icons and weird trades, et cetera, et cetera. Who would you rather been over the last 5 years, Katie? Raptors fan or Clippers fan?
This is pure Homer delirium, but Raptors, because without going Raptors, I would not have the defense, like the championship defense season, of which started
That's the tiebreaker, I think. Yeah.
of which started incredibly. We were both there in person. The energy around that team. I always feel like I sound like that woman on the Titanic, dropping the jewel in the water when I talk about it, because it's like you had to be there. But like the energy around that team, despite Kawhi leaving, all the way up until the season was ground to a halt, and so was basketball in the world at large. It was really something special to see. It was a team that I think by all, accounts had not gotten the memo that they weren't supposed to be that competitive still, right? And they didn't really care. Or if they did, they tore it up and didn't really care to believe it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with that. And then the bubble, for all the bubble's problems and the problems of the world at large around the bubble, that series against the Celtics was very special to watch as well.
It was incredible. And you had that sort of juxtaposed with the Clippers, all the expectation in the world, losing to the Nuggets, giving up the 3-1 lead in that same bubble around the same time. And like, it feels like it was a much more noble way for the Raptors to go out than the way the Clippers went out that year. Kind of shorthanded, playing Norman Powell at the 4 or at the 3 for stretches, these teensy tiny little lineups, kind of going toe to toe with a team that would go on to win a championship not too much longer after that and make a finals a couple years later. Just a kick-ass season. And I'm for that reason, like 2019-20, Katie, for me, is the most fun I've ever had watching the Toronto Raptors play basketball, championship run included. The championship run is a close second. It was incredible, but I also had ulcers the entire time. There were no ulcers during that 19-20 season. It was just all freewheeling, absolute gravy, just like shoveling gravy down my throat for like 5 straight months before the world came to a halt. Pretty amazing stuff. Kyle Lowry doing Kyle Lowry stuff, kind of unburdened by all of the past playoff failures.
And if you're rooting for the Clippers,
yeah.
I will just say, and if you're rooting for the Clippers in that sense, you're kind of also just rooting for a watered down version of the Raptors, because that is the way they were trying to team build, in those
100%.
couple years trailing the championship, and it didn't work.
Yeah, let's go get Norm. Let's go get Serge Ibaka. Let's go kick around ideas for trades for Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry. I mean, they probably should have traded for Fred VanVleet that year when Fred VanVleet was a pending free agent. But that's besides the point. I mean, look, there is a certain element of fun to having a really good team every year. That's I think what, to me, is sort of the dream, right? I don't really care if your team has like championship pedigree every year necessarily, but do you have a good, fun team that's there every year and has a shot if things break right? I think that's kind of like, that's the dream of the 2014 through 2019 Raptors, which was just an absolute joy to watch, even though things came to a miserable end more often than not. Having the promise and just being good and having 6 months of really fun regular season basketball to get you through the dark months of the year and seasonal affective disorder. That's kind of what I watch basketball for. And so there is an element of the Clippers fandom having, we get to watch Kawhi Leonard and Paul George play for us. This is pretty awesome. The problem is that the expectation was set, I think, way too high from the outset. And the injury stuff is just a gigantic bummer. And that's just kind of been this cloud that's hung over them. It's not been this, hey, we're healthy, we got a shot if things break right. It's, can we be healthy? It's a different kind of being good and being in that contender tier than I think most teams have gotten to sort of experience. Although, Katie, I do have to ask you, the Clippers during this time have built the toilet dome. Does that not at all tilt things in their favor at all? All of those toilets?
Look, I am weirdly excited to go to that arena, and mostly to try those hot dogs that they flew in an Austrian chef to taste test or perfect or something. The Michelin chef of hot dogs is who they brought in, of course. So sure, but I don't. I think that's better for the fans. It's not necessarily better for the team. I don't know that there's any more clarity around the team. Kawhi Leonard, I will say, from everything I know about that injury, that's a really tough thing that is it's going to be ongoing for the rest of his playing career, right? It is a deteriorative injury, which I think gets lost in the shuffle of talking about it, or the sense of like, quote, this guy's always injured. Like the nature of someone's body essentially breaking down in real time is that they will always be a little bit injured. So I think I just mean that as like a pin, as an aside, you know, as we've seen like the bad news roll out about it, and something I think to keep in mind when you're being critical of someone for an injury.
This is the thing. I feel like this is like a new thing, Katie, over the last few years of all is like the world's brains have collectively deteriorated. It always feels like there's like a blame element to injuries now. It's like
Or like
guys can
somebody
just get
can't stay
hurt.
healthy. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like guys get hurt. They're playing a high impact sport at a very high level. Like dudes are gonna roll ankles. Dudes are gonna have knee things. Dudes are gonna get hurt. Like it's the same thing happened with the Bruce Brown thing. It's like he can just be injured and need surgery. It doesn't have to be deeper than that. It doesn't have to be some calamitous mistake by the medical staff or Bruce Brown or whatever. Like it just like let injuries be injuries, man. One other subplot of the Clippers fandom over the last 5 years, surely that I think again tilts this in the favor of the Raptors is
Chuck.
Chuck, yeah.
Hate that guy.
Yeah, not the best of mascots. Would like to see Crunch the Wolf beat him up or something. That'd be fun. Yeah, you know.
Actually, I guess that'd be more like climate relevant for the coyote.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, the coyote versus the condor. I'm in. I feel like a condor could kind of murk a coyote out in the wild, but
I feel like it's a fair matchup.
Swooping in from above.
And the coyote's rabid, so
yeah, if you're on the coyote's turf, like you're
the
on
coyote
the ground,
is a rabid mascot. That's why his eyes are like that. So you've got a rabid animal. I feel like it's a pretty fair matchup.
Yes. Other than Chuck, the other thing that I think probably tilts us in the favor of the Raptors is, yes, the Raptors have had a couple of really bad seasons. Yes, they've seen guys walk for nothing or have bad trades and stuff like that. I don't think any of the transactions that the Raptors have made over the last 5 years have left Raptors fans feeling as sort of envious and empty as watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander turn into a perennial MVP candidate after that trade either. Tough stuff.
I think also Raptors fans, you don't get best of both worlds, because best of both worlds would be having Shai on the Raptors, but you do have some pride watching him flourish
100%.
On a team, period, and also on a team like OKC. I think, though I know you're not an OKC fan.
I can deal with the OKC team. It's like Presti worship that I don't have time for. Okay. But either way, Raptors over Clippers. It's wild that's the case over the last 5 years, but I think most people would probably say that. Clippers fans, I bet, would probably say that. Maybe it was not as extreme and would you rather as I thought it would be coming in. We're going to come back on the other side, Kate. I'm going to try to get myself back on track, and we're going to talk about the Raptors offense and defense, and whether we'd rather see them be good at offense, bad at defense, or vice versa. We'll get to that coming up to close out the show in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the #1 sportsbook in North America. And NFL's fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, live play-by-play, that is, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Go check out FanDuel. They got lots of stuff for you to go and peruse. Of course, they got those in-game bets if you're a football fan and if that's your thing. Or you can do things that, I'm not much of a sports bettor, but when I do, it's usually on like futures bets, just playing a hunch on sort of like a long odds thing. Throw a couple bucks down and see, hey, maybe I get a little bit more bucks back in 6 months' time. And you can do that right now. You can go peruse championship odds. You can go and throw money down on awards, picks, division winners, all that stuff over at FanDuel for the NBA. And of course, the NHL season starting up very soon too. A season I'm quite excited for. Either way, go check out FanDuel.com right now. It is America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Back at it here with Katie Heindl, whose phone has broken. Well, media advisory. What do we got? We got breaking news on the pod. What's up? You're muted.
Oh, Vince Carter Court revealed on Friday afternoon if you want to go in person.
Okay. All right.
There we
Vince
go.
Carter Court. All right. Well, we have breaking news here on the podcast. On Friday, there will be some news.
Ceremony and photo opportunities. Youth game. With Vince Carter. Interview opportunities with, quote, spokespeople. Do you think that will be Vince Carter?
Sounds pretty fun. Might have to make my way down to that. All right. Katie, let's get things back on track here to wrap up the show, and we're going to talk about offense and defense. I think coming into the year, it seems pretty clear the Raptors are going to be better at offense than at defense, although they weren't good at either thing last year. So my question to you, Katie, is would you rather the Toronto Raptors have a top 10 offense but a bottom 5 defense this year, or a top 15 defense and a bottom 10 offense? So slightly different in the parameters, but I think it's just unrealistic to say they'll have a top 10 defense. That's ridiculous. Top 15, crazier things have happened. So yeah, basically, would you prefer that the offense kind of pop and be a thing that's a real thing that's approaching elite while the defense still stinks out loud? Or would you prefer that there be some defensive upticks with the offense still kind of hanging in the bottom 10 like they were last year?
Yeah, I'm finally not going to be pragmatic for once. And I'm going to say I'd rather have. Wait. Oh, yeah. This is Would You Rather game. I would rather have a blistering offense than a great defense this year. Why not? Seems like fun.
I'm with you 100%, Katie. It's been all agreement on this show, which means I've failed in my duty of laying out these Would You Rathers.
I mean, this is a bit of a heel turn for me, so you didn't necessarily.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think, to me, if they can be a top 10 offense, I'm fine if their defense is still bad, because I expect their defense to be bad. I don't think they have a ton of defensive talent right now. And I think a lot of the work for this season is just kind of like figuring out how they want to play defense, how they're going to funnel shots to different parts of the court, really kind of crafting an identity. And then from there, you can kind of layer in defensive talent, hope some guys take jumps. You've got Jonathan Mobo and Jamal Shed in particular, who I think profile as very, very good defensive players if their offense can hang. I think if the offense is very good, it makes it more likely that those sort of more defensively leaning guys are able to fit into the system down the line, because it's just offense to prop them up. And I just think it's really cool and nice to have an end of the floor you can hang your hat on and say, hey, this is what we do. We score buckets. And yeah, we give up buckets too, but have fun trying to stop us in our beautiful Darko Rajakovic offense with the motion and the 0.5 and the triple handoffs, and hopefully a little bit more shooting, particularly from Grady Dick and Immanuel Quickley out of the backcourt. I think if you can, really my model for this season, Katie, if things go really well, is can you be the Kings of a couple years ago? Yeah, their defense was wretched, and it came back to bite them in the play-in or in the playoffs when they lost to the Warriors in 7. But their offense was nails and super fun. I don't think the Raptors are going to be the best offense in NBA history as the Kings were at that time, but I think can they float into that top 10? There's absolutely an outcome on the table where it happens. And if that happens, that helps you sort of plot the future a little more effectively and a little more pointedly than if you're sort of the 12th best defense, but still have an offense that stinks. Like that, to me, the next steps become a lot more clear if the offense is great and the defense still has trouble. Anything to kind of snap back at that? Is there any argument in favor of maybe kind of rooting for the defense to figure itself out this year?
I mean, defense wins games. That was me channeling a coach.
Yeah. I think it could go on First Take right now. That's First Take level take.
It is. Yes. Okay. Here's my argument for defense. Especially for a young team, I think defense forces a certain level of patience.
Sure.
And practice, like studied practice, not necessarily just reps, and getting better at offense and shooting, etc. But you have to be more active, I think, defensively, watching the floor, looking at things, making on the fly decisions. So for a young team, that is not the worst thing, right? To be doing and to be learning from. It is like a slower way to improve, but I could argue that it's more lasting. So yeah, it's not, I mean, blocks are fun as hell to watch, but I don't know. We got a couple guys that could do like a handy kind of chase down block,
Scottie for sure. He's got some
Yeah.
block juice. Yeah.
And like tips and steals are also a lot of fun. So that's my argument for that. But as I said, I'm throwing pragmatism out the window.
Katie, it's 2024. It's an offense league now. It's all about buckets. No one cares about defense. It's all just about the points you can put on the board. And that is what separates the true hoopers from the bums. Well, hopefully a team of hoopers out there for the Raptors this year. Eventually they become basketball players who can play defense down the line. That would be swell. I am a big believer in some of the defensive talent that they have kind of on the come up. I think Jacoby Walter has some defensive juice that he might be able to tap into as he, progresses from being not 19 years old. It's going to take time for sure. I think Mobo, I think Shed, they have like really interesting defensive tools. Shed, sometimes I just like go back and watch Jamal Shed defensive highlights and get real excited because God, that dude is a freak and it's the best. But yeah, that's I think more of a longer term project. Get elite at one thing this year. And if you can get elite at one thing, it seems like the offense is going to be the one that they can go and do. I don't expect them to be the top 10 in offense. I think top half of the league is on the table for sure. And I might even project that like 13th, 14th in offense. But if they can get into that, 8, 9, 10 range, that would be pretty swell as well. And I think portend good things down the line. Katie, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for partaking in this game you hate. It's really, really appreciated. And I think it makes for good podcasting to put you in a situation where you're forced to have first take level takes. It's awesome. You're very good at it. So thanks for being here. Anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Thanks for that. No, it's good. It's good. I can jokerify myself for a half hour whenever we do this. No, it's funny. I'm sitting on so much news, but not right now.
I party to some of this news, which you'll probably get some word on in the next, week or so, probably.
Yes.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's that. Also, some podcast related news. I'm credentialed again this year for the first time in a couple seasons. So I'll be around, kicking around practices, the games and whatnot that should hopefully inform the podcast and make it better. I don't know, question mark. But
Sean and I will both be at Media Day.
Yes, we'd be at Media Day on Monday. It's all very thrilling and exciting. So yeah, and I'm going to try to get down for the Vince Carter court thing. I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but it'd be nice to because I want to see that court. Sounds like it's pretty cool. Either way,
just a big picture of his face. That would be so sick.
Yeah, they don't really do like artistic renderings of people on courts, do they?
No, they should.
They really should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a Charles Barkley court, just big bald head. Yeah. I guess Vince Carter doesn't have hair either, so it could work for him too. Yeah, no. We're going to workshop this, Katie. The dog's in. We're going to leave it there. And we'll be back again on Thursday. Jamar Hines will be along as we play what's more likely a totally very different game than the game we played today. Also coming up on Friday, Kelly Dwyer. Our pal KD is going to be on the podcast.
Nice.
Very much looking forward to have Kelly back. It's been a while.
He might play guitar the whole time if you're lucky.
That's the dream, is him playing guitar throughout a podcast I'm doing. That's all I've ever wanted, Katie. So yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Go pay Katie money at Basketball Feelings, please. And you can support the show and all your podcast apps on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk to you Thursday. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. Oh!